it's more than just you.
Sure. And I think our main point today was we were going to try to think about what were the options for our money from the feds and the state to make sure that we're applying it in a way that, first of all, is legitimate for the grant, and then also makes sense for the town. And Terry, you had your meeting to
Yeah.
try to come up with a mini list.
I talked with Greg O'Tailing last week, and the sewer master plan was adopted in 2016, 17. Identified 3 different areas, of concern for sewer district creation. The primary one was Hamlet of Cheshire. And through an analysis, MRB put together all the numbers. We had a presentation with all the people in Cheshire, and the annual cost was just beyond what they could afford. It was around $1,500 a year. And so the effort in that area just kind of fizzled out. I mean, they just couldn't sign on to it. And that $1,500 a year was considering that there would be a CDBG grant of about $1 million to, help offset the cost. It was about a $2.5 million project altogether. So then we went to Grandview Park. We looked at that, and it was a similar situation. The costs were just beyond what people could afford. So we didn't have a public presentation with that one, but we did
Run the
inform all the
numbers.
residents. Here's what the cost would be, solicited input from them.
What was the cost for them?
Can't remember exactly, Joe, but it was somewhere. It was in the
Thousands
$1,300
of,
How
a
many
year.
people are there?
Huh?
I just find it hard to believe that
Well,
$1,500 a year is outside their budget. It's just,
I'm just telling you what we got back, whether it's,
well, in Cheshire, we know that it's a pocket of poverty in our, in terms of local incomes,
but is that $1,500 a year per person?
per
Yes.
property.
No.
Per
Per
property.
property.
Oh,
Per
per
EDU.
property.
Per
Oh,
property.
okay, I'm thinking
Per
$1,500 a year for the whole hamlet. Oh,
no,
sorry.
no.
Per
Okay,
property,
then that's
per property,
right,
yeah.
and that's a burden.
Broken down by what they call EDU.
Yeah.
Is equivalent to all.
Thank
units.
you. I mean, I didn't.
Yeah,
I
that, no,
wasn't
we're
clear.
pretty familiar with that because we went in
Yeah.
through all the meetings of that. So that, but please ask your questions. Don't worry about it.
We use that to confuse the public sometimes too.
Mhm.
But, and so anyway, we had a public works committee meeting, planning public works committee meeting last Friday. I asked Greg O'Tailing, the engineer from MRB that works with the town, to take another look at the cost if we applied some of this ARPA money, the recovery, American Recovery Plan. or
And the
whatever.
reason why we're looking at this is the ARPA money is specific to only certain things.
Yeah.
Certain COVID related things, damages that we incurred, which we did not incur, so we can't use it there.
Yeah.
Overtime for COVID related stuff, but not regular pay, and that's kind of a small number. And so we were looking for, how do we use it in an effective way to benefit the town? And we started to look at the master plans to say, what were the highest need areas? And ones that we already know are a problem for the people that going forward. We can't find a solution at this point without,
So can we use it for infrastructure?
yes,
Yeah.
roads,
Just
sewers
water,
and
sewer,
water,
water,
Use it.
sewer,
not roads.
Water, sewer, Wi-Fi.
So if you use it for Cheshire and Grandview Park or whatever, then you could eliminate that annual charge. You could just pay for the whole thing or not?
No. No, this is what Terry got some
I don't
information
know.
from MRB,
I sent that, or I forgot to send it to you, Joe, but I sent it to,
me.
I have, it. Let me save it to the end.
well, I asked Greg to take a look, take a couple of different.
They
chunks of that
reran
money,
the numbers.
See what effect it would have, considering that we would still be eligible for the community development block grant of $1 million also, but apply, a couple different levels of it, 3/4 of it, all of it, see what that would do, and it lowers the cost significantly. Whether it lowers it enough that these people could afford it, only they could, tell us that,
So
so
the annual cost would last for how long?
it's
20 or
30 year
30,
bond.
yeah,
30
20 or
years,
30,
yeah.
something like that.
So, and the lower end is like $80 a month. So that's what it
So
would,
it's still $1,000.
just a little short,
Well-
short of that.
What it,
We
yeah,
could get it down to about $780 if we
throw the whole
put
thing
in
at
$1 million.
one.
What we're getting is 1.15 million. We have half now. The other half comes a year from July. So here's the,
Of the new numbers. Maybe, can you view, can you make it a little bit bigger?
when
Uh,
this plan was conceived, Joe, there were like 4 different routing options. Those are on the left. Different ways to get over to Foster Road where there's sewer coverage up Foster Road.
They don't have sewer in Cheshire. Huh?
They had
No.
nothing in Cheshire. The top one is the one that's the preferred route, so.
So not only will they have to pay for that, and they've got the quarterly charge as well.
So that's the total cost. That has
Oh, that includes it?
The O and M there,
over on the right, that number.
so that middle O and M is like the recurring.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, but I guess I don't understand Greg's numbers, and I guess I would want to run our own numbers because he's showing the capital cost of 2.5 million. All right, on this. He's showing grants, other grants of 1.7, but I don't know if that's just the million plus the 750 from the grant or not. I also don't know if he's really factored into, I believe that $2.5 million, and I've been a budget man, so I haven't had a chance to talk with Greg.
I haven't either. I just got it.
Yeah, so that 2.5 million, I don't know if that really includes all the engineering or just construction, because we run into this sometimes with these guys, where it's not total project costs. So
Oh.
I have that question. And then the grant, he's showing 1.5 million or 1.7 million, and net capital cost is 789. So I mean, he's showing that in the number of units. I think maybe it's ballpark, but I think it has some fine tuning to do to actually get you guys a real number.
I think the 2.5 was the original total cost. That included everything, engineering also. So
And his assessment was that it could come in for, I think I read in there that it could come in for about the same cost, right? He made a comment or something that
Well,
said it would be
yeah,
about the same.
well, this is what the original cost was. Materials now
Yeah.
are more expensive than they were 2 years ago. when we
That's
put
why I
this
was
together.
surprised when he said, in
Well,
the
he
letter
doesn't-
you
he
forwarded, he
can't.
said, I think it can be about the same cost.
No, not really. And this would also be, this isn't a project that would be taken on even next year, probably. It would probably actually be physically done the following year, 2023. So God knows what pricing is gonna be then. I
Could
mean,
come down by
I'm
then.
taking a guess, you know.
Could come back down.
You might have more availability.
Well,
It's already coming down.
Could be up, it could be down. You just
Look
don't
at
know.
plywood was $100, it's down to $25.
Yeah.
2x4s are
Yeah.
down,
Right.
$2.
What?
Hopefully they stay down.
2x4s are down by 2. We don't need money for that, but.
No, but I'm just saying that that's come down. the rest
I
of
know,
it's-
so hopefully everything else comes down with it.
Chrysler pipe is still up though.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, we're doing a lot with that. I was actually just reading that email, that email that you forwarded, Terry. So he's actually, what he actually said in the body of the email, which I didn't see till just now. He's showing $1 million in CDBG funds plus 750 in the ARPA money.
Right.
And then what he said that, so then he's just calculating roughly the debt service payment of the 520 or 530, just say. But another unknown there is the county's O&M rate, because he's basing that on when they did the master study, the sewer master plan.
So is it
So
like
that
the
418 county O&M rate may change.
county's rate is what I pay for my sewer?
Yes,
It's $96.25
yeah, that's
a
the
quarter.
O&M rate.
Yeah. So it's say just around it's $400 a year,
Approximately.
a little less.
And this, he's got 418, 411,
Yeah,
yeah, all sorts in
Plus,
right
I
around
mean,
there.
there might be some additional cost because this would be a town district that would then discharge into the county system. So there might be a few little extra costs associated with this, but I mean, I think the ballpark, that's about, I think, based on what I'm reading here, you're probably just shy of $1,000 a year.
So all these options, so all these roads, Johnson Road and Wells Curtis, they don't have sewer either, or are you tying into that?
No,
So that
it'd
would
be
be adding on to
restricted.
them
It'd
too.
be strict. This would be Cheshire. There'd be a lift station at the south end of Cheshire. In fact, we actually own a piece of property down there. The town does. lift station would be there, we go down Wells Curtis Road and cut laterally over to, where I live out down in the middle of Cheshire. No, we don't have, nobody out there. From Foster South, there's no sewer.
I just ordered a sewer map, but it's not here yet. So there is a water map there, but no, it's not here yet. So,
We do have water.
yeah, we do have water.
Actually, we have lots of water today.
So the most expensive one, the 1466, that would be for everybody. That would be for Cheshire, Wells Curtis, Johnson Road. Correct? Or,
Gravity sewer in Cheshire with gravity sewers enforcement along sewer route, second pump station at the low point on Wells Curtis Road.
Is that, see where it says number of units?
Problem,
Increases.
That's the increase. So that's the extra residents, units it's picking
This
up.
was just
Well,
trying to look if we expanded the district, could we bring down the cost? You
Right.
know, if we put in
well, in
additional
fact,
places
the
and
cost would probably,
it wasn't,
cost would probably
it
go
never
up.
worked.
Cost would go up, and the reason for that
Yeah.
is that we did an income survey in Cheshire. That's how we qualified for the $1 million CBDG grant. And Cheshire, they went door to door, everybody. Anonymously, you know, but put the numbers in, and we did qualify for that grant. However, if you go down Wells Curtis Road, any of those other roads, the incomes are up,
It's
the
going
other
up.
properties are up, the $1 million goes away.
Yeah, and Greg's number even factors in the $1 million.
Yeah, he
So
considers
when
it still
higher,
happening.
so- And then the other thing is you're just opening it up for development at that point, because at that point, once you like.
Once you
those
put in the
farm fields on
sewer.
Johnson Road, they're in a sewer district, they can build.
Well, most of the properties on Johnson Road.
Right, they don't
are
have to
5
worry.
acre lots, and
Right.
they're deeded that way, so.
Right.
They're not gonna be,
But
they're not gonna be any more
They could
development there.
subdivide, they could subdivide, just had a conversation with a lady about that.
Oh, yeah?
They could subdivide. Yeah, she was looking for sewer, so she could subdivide her property, because it's predominantly AR2 and RR3
Yeah.
there, right? So they could, if they have a 5 acre lot, they could still get it.
Oh, it's all AR too, yeah, that area.
that's a big annual cost, $1,500.
Yeah, for people who right now, well, they have to pay when they have to fix their septic, but they're essentially sewer for them is zero.
So I think the question was the ARPA money, right? So you
Right.
can throw the whole $1 million at this and bring it down.
Another,
probably
Another 150 or
$900 to $950 a year probably in total payment for these residents.
Bring it down to that.
Total for
But it's
number
a-
one.
well, yeah,
Just
that
do the
top
whole-
line, it could even go maybe a little
Yeah.
lower, maybe,
About 780.
yeah,
The top one is just for Cheshire, right?
Mhm.
yes,
That doesn't include Johnson Road and
No,
No.
right.
just Cheshire. Gravity sewer in Cheshire with force main to existing sanitary manhole on Foster.
Well, another, I mean, this seems like, again, it's not gonna fly for the residents of Cheshire, probably, no matter,
Oh,
it
no.
doesn't feel like they're in the,
Well, they're not gonna get it for free, so.
I know.
maybe that's what they wanted, but they're not gonna get it. that way.
right, it won't happen for free. What about one project that stuck in my mind when I saw a note go flying around about, you know, where the county's saying, hey, is Uptown gonna overwhelm the sewer? I think this is essential. I might be a little off on this, but is Uptown gonna overwhelm the sewer capacity in that area? Is that a question that's out there?
No.
Or there's
It
a
was
question-
Years ago, but we really lobbied hard to get the county to upgrade the force main.
And they did.
on Fire Hall. They
why
Okay.
would the county pay for this?
They don't. The county's philosophy for sewer districts is it's the responsibility of the individuals of the district to maintain 100% of the cost. And anybody new coming in that has any new costs, they're 100% responsible. So for instance, even a developer that comes into an area that's adding a housing development into a county sewer system, if the pumps in the pump station have to be upgraded to provide the capacity needed, if they pass that 100% on to the developer.
But when and this is going back a lot of years, I built my house. I hooked into the county sewer. I was responsible for putting the hookup from the road to my house.
Right,
Right.
And I had to pay like $3,500.
for the
connection.
one-time hookup.
And that was it.
Right.
And then I just paid it quarterly.
Right.
So why
Well,
is it different for
one-
these people?
Because this is a large adding of units to this.
Think
Well,
of
this
this,
doesn't
think of
make
this
any
as,
sense.
it's
They-
not from your house, it's from 7 miles down the road. This is all the pipe to get it to there and make sure it's gonna work. And so you're not just making a connection to an existing system, you're
I mean,
building the
I think it would be
system.
to their advantage to have people on
It's
sewer
actually,
district.
it's the opposite.
Is it?
They actually would prefer not to have people add, not for people to have people connect. At some point in time, many, many moons ago, the town of Canandaigua decided to basically not be in the sewer business and to give all of this infrastructure to the county. And there's many times over and over again where we're constantly dealing with this issue, especially it was a big, huge issue in Uptown. In Uptown, you basically have all of Uptown, the school bus garage, that whole entire area, all drains to that one pump station across the street from Blue Heron Park. And then it goes from there into a force main that was a capacity that goes back into the city's transmission main, but they replaced that, but the pumps, for instance, the pumps can only be sized to whatever the current capacity is, that's essentially pushing the effluent through the pipe. So as we build in Uptown and as new things happen, new developments, especially larger developments, those developers actually still have to upgrade the pumps in the pump station as they come up, but they know that, that's part of the cost of development of the business. They've been around enough, they know that. This, he just pulled up the map here. There's another map, but this will work. So we see the hamlet of Cheshire, the little yellow right there. So obviously the hamlet of Cheshire here, and then here's the closest sanitary sewer. So it would be coming from here and help me, Terry, because I know we looked at different options, but I thought the option that they ended up coming with was coming down this way and crossing back up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, at some point you cut cross like that.
But just as a.
Well, no, it doesn't. Well,
Not as a gravity, but as a force main, so that
Yeah,
nobody
yeah.
can tie into it,
Yeah.
just shooting it over to the manhole
Mhm.
with force it. Because I know we had also at one point looked at
Yeah.
Keister and coming down and over that,
Right.
but I don't know if that was the preferred alignment.
no, it wasn't. It's the former, the one you first outlined.
Yeah. So that was the easier way to do it, but that would not allow any of those residents to tie in, it's a force main. Pumped.
Any of which residents?
Wells Curtis. or
People on the
Johnson.
streets, because it wasn't coming through. So that's,
Well, that's one area. I also asked Greg to take a look at Grandview Park again, but he just hasn't had time this week
okay,
to do it yet. And we also are. There were 3 areas identified, Cheshire, Grandview Park area, part of Route 21, and County Road 28 up here in on the northeast side of the city. And County Road 28, we're in the midst of evaluating that. Greg is looking at that. The latest back from the county was they wanted to know what possible future expansion would be.
that was the note I
Yeah.
saw. I couldn't remember
So-
where it was for.
Greg had looked at taken the zoning map and looked at the vacant land in that area and just divided, came up with a total number of.
That's what
Yeah.
this is here.
So when you have developers doing this, it's not an issue for us. It's only an issue when you're doing it in residential areas.
Yes.
It's if it already exists.
Could we get that taken care of on 28 if it was developed? Somebody
Get
comes
what
in and
taken care
develops
of?
So we would
The
have
sewer
to,
that we're talking about.
we would have to create a district. We would have to
Right,
create a
but could we
district.
pass that cost on? Could the developers front that cost? Do you know what I'm saying? Or do we have to create the district
We have to create. a
and then
district.
they type?
Because in this particular situation, the
nothing.
district doesn't
Right.
exist.
Okay, so they
Yeah.
can't come in and
Right.
create a new district.
And the
Right.
challenge with this is, and I just want to make sure everybody knows, good, bad, and different, this is political decision, you guys. But some of that farmland will actually be in the district. And so we were looking
Yeah.
at, and so you see the parcels that I actually wrote farm.
Yeah,
Those parcels would then be in the district, so. it
There's a
would
lot of
become
pressure on
easier
farmland.
Parcels would
Yeah.
disappear. In the
Switch
next
that
10
to
years, those
development.
parcels would be gone.
Right now, in County Road 28, I think there's 92 or 94 EDUs that are in the hopper for consideration. And the little boxes there with the numbers in white, little white boxes with the numbers in them are what the potential if you just looked at it from a purely, zoning standpoint,
What's it do to the
could
wetland?
be.
Nothing really to wetland, because the wetland, there's a little bit of developable land on that wetland piece, but that's primarily wetland. That's nothing much is gonna happen to that.
What happens in a district? I'm thinking of Cheshire, say we built the Cheshire district and then some developer came, wanted to make a little development in there. Does everyone's assessment go down then because there's a few more people sharing it?
Well, so the debt service, so it's a ad valorem, usually sanitary sewers are an ad valorem charge, meaning it's based on the assessed value. So if the assessed value were to go up, you have the same level of debt service, then it would be spread over more assessed.
So then it goes down.
Mhm.
So the real,
But I think Greg may have calculated this on a unit charge, just to give you a ballpark. That's why I
Yeah.
like to run it the other way also. 'Cause
okay,
it could be done both ways.
all right, well, that makes sense. I
So
mean,
this is unit charge versus assessed.
Yes,
you
So then
think,
everybody's
yeah.
gonna be different.
right.
Not the only.
Although the difference in values out there,
Not a huge, right,
right now,
not a
company
huge,
store maybe
yeah,
up here, but
they're
other
all
than
pretty
that,
much,
yeah.
yeah. Do you remember how much offhand, how much Grandview? Do you remember a ballpark number?
Do you still have this from that thing?
it's,
How much it,
The three scenarios are down a little further, or actually, can you go to the table of contents at the beginning? And they'll tell us whatever page number it's on. You can see it, it's gonna read that.
just a blur from here.
oh, yeah.
There you go, page 31.
So much smaller as I get.
39 is Grandview, 31 is Cheshire, 39 is Grandview, and 41 is County Road 28.
So that first, that's all Cheshire.
And keep in mind that this is the original master plan.
This isn't gonna be,
This is 5 years old. so
yeah, so it's gonna,
But you can see the relative cost one to the other with this,
No,
and that relative difference should hold.
So, how many units does he show? Wait a minute, that, 240? 20 units. So that's just
Okay.
Grandview Park itself.
so that's why, yeah.
That's,
what was it?
20 units for
250
250.
250 grand for that units. Can you go back to the part map? Let me just show everybody that, maybe we can blow that up so everybody can see it a little bit, or the. Anyone of those, that's fine. Yeah. Actually, while you're right there. This is that pump station we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that? Okay, right here with this yellow box. And all of these sewer lines, like a Custos, Brickyard Road, all like up by the GMC dealership, the driving range, fire hall, everything. Think about everything that's on 332. It all drains to that one pump station. That's why that pump station was so critical, but okay. So then, yeah, kick over just a little bit. So Grandview Park is just this little piece right here where these 20 houses are from New York State Route 21 south. It's this little area right here that's tying in. Now, there is another piece to
Yeah.
this,
The VA,
the VA. So the VA has a sewage treatment facility here. But I was just recently told that they have to abandon that and they're gonna run their own sanitary line into the city. And so there might be an opportunity for us
To lower our costs with that.
to tie into that at that point, but there's a lot more engineering that has to be looked at for that.
Yeah.
So how did that 240 figure compare to Cheshire's figure on this survey?
Cheshire's figure was
$5,000.
2.5 million.
Yeah.
From the master plan? No, I'm talking about when it was, this is,
Oh.
that one's
Yeah,
5 years
he
old.
wants the number for the.
I'm trying to compare 5 years ago to 5 years ago.
I think that
was it the total Cost similar, but it's fewer units.
No, because their number was $1,000.
So,
Yeah, so, and we had 2.5, so we're in the ballpark.
250, So 2.3 to 2.5. So 250 might be in that 300 range.
But again, it also
Ish.
depends on
Yeah.
where the actual lines are
Mhm.
too, and if you include more units or not.
yeah, it had a few alternatives there. This one was one. Different alternative.
Yeah, I'm basing it on that first one. This is my thinking.
These were not engineered plans.
Right.
The one for Cheshire was.
Correct.
So these were all estimates 5
Right.
years ago with current pricing and all that stuff. So but
I
then when
think-
you get into it, it's,
Right.
they never go down, they always go
Right,
up.
What do we
we'd
have
to
left
do
in
a
the-
preliminary
What do we have left in the funds that we're getting from the federal government?
Almost all of it. I mean, you know, really,
How much is it?
1.15 million total. We have half now.
Just over.
we just got the first part of it, so. And I mean, realistically, we can apply some of it to the, anything
Oh,
of the
anything
overtime that,
legal.
yeah, anything that's
Right.
legal. But it's just gonna be really a painful way to do it, so we were looking for a big way to do it that was benefit the town. Are there other things that we, this is saying, let's look at sewer. Is there anything else that,
You
We-
could easily throw the whole million at sewer, whichever combination of the three priority master plans. So the other thing is Jim has identified, Seneca Point Road, a stormwater situation. He's estimated about $250,000. That would qualify. We could use the ARPA money for that because it's stormwater.
mediation, whatever you want to call it, yeah.
Because that culvert, that whole system is crumbling. And it's something we have to do. We either use some of this or we go into contingency money or some.
Yeah, and the
other way. It
reason
has to be done though. so.
the reason we were looking at sewer is because there's no other way to help those residents get sewer. So this is like a one-time windfall that could help these sewer problems when people can't afford it anyway. So we're like, oh, can we use it to help residents? Because normally we can't throw general fund money at sewer projects that benefit only a few people.
And I think the money's better used for them than for the stormwater, do the stormwater and have just the town eat that 250,000 makes it more of a difference to these people with the sewer. And I think it would our budget.
That's why we started with the sewers.
Normally, I would agree with you, but since I'm working on budget right now, and I'm in budget cut mode right now because it's not pretty. I can tell you that, I mean, Jim didn't even propose that $250,000 as part of his budget, and I still have to cut out 3 million out of his budget, proposed budget, so.
I mean, if that thing's crumbling, then I mean, if all of a sudden it fails, then what happens? You got water running down Seneca Point Road.
Question
Into
the
the lake.
integrity of the road that didn't,
Yeah.
that's,
Right, so it's
There-
definitely
there's some-
something that has
there's
to be
some
done.
financial challenges that, seriously, and we're gonna talk about this when we start talking about budget, but like, Jim identified $2.5 million in just roadway improvements that have been essentially put off the last couple of years, and then he does the whole Cornell Road programs analysis of our infrastructure, and we have put off some improvements the last couple of years with COVID, but we also, it's gonna be nearly impossible to do all those, like, I'll give you one example, it's $850,000 to redo Timberline and Silvernail Drive. I don't see how we're gonna be able to do that, but he's like, Doug, it's time for us to do that, and it's $850,000.
And they're not a road that can be done with that mat stuff that we use that, the kind of, the lay down.
The base and everything.
And I ride bikes
it's
on
everything.
Silver Nail, it doesn't seem like it's on that bad.
Yeah. But it failed in the whole analysis that they do on the roads. It's one of the lowest.
It's identified
I'm
as a
just
problem.
looking at it. from,
Right.
I'm looking,
Well-
riding on it.
I-
No.
I want to say, I was looking at the, our financial reports and just like we just made the adjustment for the incremental sales tax revenue, we're exceeding a few other revenue categories. And so what I'll expect is that at the end of the year, we are gonna have excess revenue over expenses, because we're always really good at managing our expenses. So we're gonna have some money that we can put into
There's a lot
reserves.
of bills coming in at the moment. I don't know, this year.
You
I
think
it's gonna be-
Yeah.
No, I think we're gonna stick to our budget on expenses,
we'll
but
definitely
we're
stick to that.
overrunning our revenue, so
We'll
we're
stick to
getting,
Budget on most things. The one thing that I'm very concerned about is the playground, the park, that's the cost.
I'm not
That's
starting.
serious on that, but, the most, the department heads take pride in the fact that they're
Yes.
watching their budget and they try to come in under budget. And Jim in particular, Jim does a great job with it. He has big numbers and everything, but,
even if they come in on budget, we're overrunning revenue.
traditionally we've overrun. revenue.
And
we
we're
just did
really
that
overrunning it this year.
Oh,
We
yeah,
just bumped it
1.4
up by the,
million in the second quarter.
well,
Million.
not even
Versus,
counting that.
oh, no, I'm
The
just
sales
asking an
tax revenue
example.
is high. I
Yeah.
think the mortgage is high. I saw a couple categories where we hadn't made an adjustment for, but we did make it for the 1/4
Yeah, that was
sales
very-
tax.
that was big.
Well,
Um,
the only thing is
We
you
put the
can't make-
majority of that contingency, so it's not like it's actually being spent, the money's still there, right? So
Agreed.
If we don't spend that, that'll just roll into fund balance.
Right,
So-
Oh, yeah.
right. So,
But
and those,
There's a place to do
Yes.
some of this
It
work.
could fund
Yes.
Yeah.
the Seneca Point Road,
Yes, right.
or most of it,
Oh, yeah.
where it can't fund the other.
Correct.
And check back to the sewers, the water quality issue, I mean, Cheshire is vital for that. You know, and if we can,
We have not done a lot of testing out there, but, when we had the meeting with the residents at the fire hall out there, a number of them said, well, you can walk along the stream and any day you can smell,
Really?
So I asked Kevin to do some testing out there, and Kevin did some testing, and he found no evidence of any leaking system, but it was one test, one day, I mean, so it's not
it's,
a comprehensive look at, the whole thing.
What's it like after a couple of days like
It's like
this?
this.
I don't know. You can't, but
No,
you can't make decisions now knowing that your revenues are high, because you need to wait till the end of the year to see how everything washes out. You just can't.
well, with this,
You know, you can say
ARPA
our
money.
sales tax is $500,000 over, but you don't know, like Doug said, you've got bills coming in. You know what I mean?
I
So
do
you
know
need
what
to
you
wait till
mean,
the
but
end
I
of the year.
also know our history, and we've always sucked a little away every year, and this year feels like a windfall year for us, because
the thing about
what
this,
we're
what we're
gonna
talking about today, though, with this ARPA money, we have to identify by, what is it, October 1st?
October 31st.
31st.
To do the first report. So that means I need you at the October meeting to
Yeah.
make a
evaluate.
decision. where
We
we're
have to
gonna
tell the feds where we're gonna spend the money.
so
Now,
let me ask you
You
a
may.
question though, Terry. Is it possible that we put in this line in Cheshire and nobody hooks up to it?
Well, I mean, it
it's-
is possible. I mean, we did have that happen with Purdy Mobile.
Purdy,
Sewer. We fought for years and years and years. We got that in. And we still have, for instance, like an apartment building that's not tied in, that we keep violating and everything else, which is just crazy.
But we,
that they
we
won't.
found, we
And we
went
even
through
funded the
the,
connections on that one.
yeah, well, we also went through, we hooked people up with the Bishop Sheehan Foundation, and they paid for a lot of the hookups up there, so, I mean, it's, yeah,
I'm
But
not,
they're still in
I
the
still want to
district. They
do
still
it.
get charged.
yeah.
They're still in the district.
Oh, I
They'll
see. So
hook up.
they're paying the O and M, but they're just not paying
Yeah, they'll
this.
get charged every
Full
day.
line
Yeah,
price.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it's not,
It's their own,
okay,
Connections or quarterly bill.
all right, so regardless, they get hit with that $900.
yeah, because they would be a district.
Yeah.
They would be a district. The
Ben-
property would be. in a
beneficiary.
district. Yes.
Right, okay.
Well, and I just look at it and say, if there's anything that could be developed around Cheshire, because they have sewers, that would help all the people in it.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
that's where you get
and-
into a situation, because the majority of the residents have told us time and time again, they don't want Cheshire
To
developed.
change.
They want it just the way it is. But if
There's
we
not
bring
really a whole
sewer-
lot. there's not a whole lot there to develop.
Well, the Warner parcel.
Well,
That
yeah.
one you could probably do.
So,
So
then you gotta deal with more.
900.
No, that gets for sale. It's
So
for
the
sale.
$1,000 a year,
Where's that
they
one?
get,
Right
Is that
at
the
the
good
Cheshire.
old? That's
Right
the
down
Cheshire.
does that include the cost of the hookup to it? as
No.
well?
No,
Okay.
So they're gonna have to.
Because I was gonna
fund
say,
the-
if that included the cost of the hookup, you just said that we paid for the hookup on another one.
Well,
Why
we were
couldn't
able
do
to,
that?
so we were able, as Terry said, Bishop Shane, the other thing that we did is. On
Hook
that
up with
particular project,
not-for-profits.
30 Mobile Road Sewer, we had extra money. So the town board actually designated the use of up to so much to help with the hookup fees.
But, you know, you could, if you went this road, if we did something like that, you get one guy out there that could offer the people a deal if you get the whole, you know, there are ways to get the cost down, so Warner's would probably do it, you
Yeah,
know,
they'd probably get right up there.
they're right there, you know, that's what they do for a living.
They're selling everything, getting out of business. So the other thing, and just make you guys aware, we go down this road with operating sewer districts, same for County Road 28. and We were talking about this the other day. Those then become town sewer districts, okay, that we likely operate and discharge into the county system. We may or may not have to look at licensing issues with either employees or bringing employees on. There may be some additional costs for the town for the operation of these sewer districts. So just want to make sure you're aware
Yeah.
of it. It's not just.
Yeah,
this
because we
piece of
gave
it.
away all
We
the other
might be
stuff.
able to come up with some arrangements on my
Yes.
end with the Farmington, because they
Yes.
have the
Right. Or even
credential
the
people.
or whoever, right?
Yeah.
Yes. We'll just have to evaluate
So
that.
the sewer districts pay the salaries of the people that maintain these things?
Yeah, because you're not allowed to provide a benefit for somebody who's not receiving the service essentially. This is a little different, the ARP monies, although those rules still apply. We have to, if we're going to say, okay, we're going to use this money for sewer, we just have to document the benefit for the community. Now, there's all kinds of easy ways to do that.
Right, because we have
the connection to
quality of the
grade,
lake, yeah,
water
yeah.
quality, all that kind of stuff.
And there's such a limited number of areas that you can apply this money. It's all connected to water one way or another, either effluent or fresh water or drainage. I mean, it's. And you can't go back and recoup any of the costs that we had last year. This is all, the only money you can recoup in terms of the virus and its effect on our expenses is anything we incurred after what, March 1st of this year. Well, most of the costs were last year. You can't get them.
Even those, we've already paid for them, so just let, you know, why go back and you're just gonna throw that into fund balance and use it again, so what's the difference?
Is there, sewers are tricky. Is there anything in water infrastructure, any top ones that people see, you know what I mean? Like the maintenance and the ongoing cost of sewer seems to be a harder one for them to swallow than the water. So maybe do we switch our focus and say, is there a water one?
Yeah, there are water projects, the one in Rosier Road and Woolhouse, going back into Cheshire, completing that loop. Going up Woolhouse Road up to County Road 32. I mean, we do have a water master plan that outlines, doesn't present it in the hierarchical sense that this did, the
Yeah.
sewer. It gives kind of a moderate impact, high impact and classifications like that, but there are a few areas, yeah.
But don't you run into the same issue, because then you have now you've got a water district that they're paying for?
Oh, yeah.
But people seem more willing to pay for high quality water than they want to pay for disposing of poop. You know what I mean? This is just like
Most
they're,
people are like, I got my septic
People want-
tank. I
Right.
love it. I haven't had to do
it's
much
free
for
to
that."
me until I have a big repair.
Yeah.
The one
Um,
that Terry's talking about, the Woolhouse Rosier extension 41, 42, whatever it was, we had already held public hearings on that. The
Yeah.
residents had already said yes to that, and everything else, but we couldn't do it because of the situation with the water tanks.
Yeah. Now that's resolved,
Now
so.
that's resolved. So
And that doesn't put as much pressure on that area.
well, and the people already wanted to do it. So like, all right, do we really need to fund that area? Because the people are already willing to fund it, right?
Yeah.
We were trying to improve a situation that wasn't working with the Cheshire one. My fear is we could go and do this and the Cheshire people are gonna be more pissed than happy.
Well,
It's like,
Half of them,
I-
yeah, half of them.
I mean, we're not just gonna drop it on and say we're gonna do it. You still gotta, I would think we'd have to go out and do
Oh, yeah.
the same thing we did before with
We
a
actually
public
would have to
meeting.
Start all over with the income survey because it's expired, so we have to go back.
Yeah,
and
we
do
have to
all
redo that. We don't know if we qualify right now. We're assuming we would. Because you drive through Cheshire, you don't see a whole lot of gold-plated faces on the houses.
How long is it gonna take you to do that?
Income survey.
It took
probably 8 months.
yeah, the guy we
You know,
hired,
only got until October.
But you can make,
Well, you
No,
can,
it's-
Oh, you can
You
identify
can
the money.
adjust, you
can
can
identify
adjust
it.
it.
What if you decide you don't want to do it? after
That's
that?
okay, we can.
yeah, you can
It's
change
still
the
do
plan.
We have to spend the money by the, or we have to commit the money by the end of 24, and it has to, project has to be completed by the end of 26, so we have time.
So you could say, I'm gonna use it for the Cheshire Sewer District,
Mhm.
and then next year,
We go
say,
through
well,
the
we're not gonna do
process.
that, now we're gonna do a
Right.
water project instead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You
So
can-
why don't we just commit to doing the sewer district and
that's-
see what we can find out?
Can the cost of the survey come under this?
Probably. I mean, that was.
Well,
like-
the more you whittle this thing
Figure out,
down.
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
if
the
you're
more
gonna-
you
if you're
whittle
gonna
it down,
start-
the less it applies
Yeah,
to
you're taking
reducing
pennies out
their.
of this thing.
Yeah, it's only 3,000, so it's not
Yeah.
that much.
I'm sure we'll have to update the preliminary engineering report, there'll be some costs associated with those types of things, but we're, like I said, we're working on the budget. I did put some of that as placeholders in, because those are general fund expenses. So that's in there
Right.
right now, along with some of the other stuff we talked about, transfer station and all that, so I put placeholders for all that right now. We're gonna have some budget work to do this year.
My thought is, if we're gonna help Cheshire, we gotta give them all to it. If we're not gonna help Cheshire, then we're gonna be trying to find little tiny projects to fill up the big pile.
If you're not gonna help Cheshire, then you could probably take that 250 grand.
Yeah.
For Grandview Park and then the road and then throw some at another water project, you know what I mean? Like we can definitely do it, but we are just trying to do something that would help residents as
So
well.
that full amount for Cheshire, if the full amount went there, it would cut that. By maybe what, 400?
It takes it down to about 70.
That's the note Terry sent us from MRB. They did that and they did that preliminary
So-
analysis
the
and Doug
biggest
wants
piece
to
of it
redo it.
Is the quarterly thing, so it's not even like.
Well,
it's-
that one right there,
That's it.
doesn't have, does that have a full amount, that doesn't have a full amount to it, that only has half.
That has
The
The
750.
750 out of 1.1.
Yeah, so it's
That's
not the
three
full-
quarters.
Well,
Yeah.
So there's not
Close
400,000.
Right,
In the email, though, he says that, that would, he said if you put, you kick ARPA up to $1 million, it would drop to $778.
okay.
Right.
So
that-
it's about
and it's
780, so.
778, there's really, the O and M cost is really a fixed cost, so.
Mhm.
So the 778, you've got another $300 that's towards the debt service, so.
Mhm.
Really, the $400 that they're paying is a quarterly thing, so they're not getting $400 all at once. You know what I'm saying? It might ease that pain a little bit.
I believe the O and M would be on their tax bill.
No, it's not.
No, it's.
No,
okay.
it's-
No, I
It's
get
a
billed for
quarterly
it.
bill for
Yeah, They
O&M?
send me a bill.
Yeah, that's the way they counted it.
So this-
Although we're getting ours
So-
from the city, I think, where you are. I get
I
mine.
get mine from the town.
No, yours is.
Town.
Oh, it's the water from the city.
The water we get from the city.
Yeah, the water. Okay.
So, but the one thing that the residents had kept telling us, like when we did those meetings in the Hamlet of Cheshire, they kept saying, we can't afford more than $100 a month. I remember that very clearly. We'd like you to get it to $50 a month. So that'd be 600 to do the right, which we had always.
Really
said-
close. We're getting in between there.
Well,
Yeah.
You were getting close, which we had always said was primarily the debt service would eat up the majority of that quote unquote $600 a year, or I'm sorry, the O and M cost would eat up the majority of that $600 a year. So you're getting very, very close at this point.
They said they could afford $100.
They
a
said they
month,
could
that's
afford
$1,200,
$50, right? They
that's
said they could
$1,200
go up,
bucks.
right?
So if
Yeah.
you get it to 780,
They should
Well,
be happy.
that's
That-
like 60
That
or
also,
70.
that also wasn't every single
That wasn't
person
everybody.
saying.
That
that. That was
Right. It
a
was-
comment.
I think it's worth floating it out there.
I think that might be the right way to go with the plan. Start walking down this path, find out if there's something that's gonna stop us and then go back to plan B. I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta pick up. If we don't start on something, we're never gonna get there.
Well, we have to
Right.
identify.
So,
I would, in my opinion, I think you take the whole thing and go into that sewer project.
And then if they say no, then look at Grandview. Or at
Or
least identify it for sewer.
what about doing, well, you could do Grandview, or what about doing like Johnson, just like Johnson Road or Wells Curtis too?
You would still need.
You'd still
either
need
a
it.
Pump station or
Mhm.
something or other,
Yeah.
so the cost.
Right, but those people might not, they might want it.
but see, the evaluation that they did
few-
was that added to the total overall district cost per person. So
Well,
this,
but
if you
could
see-
Exclude Cheshire, that's what I'm saying, exclude them.
But you would lose the grant, you would
Oh,
also
okay.
lose the
right.
pump station, and you'd lose the town's property where we'd locate this, you'd be actually.
Okay.
I wonder if there's a way to
Yeah.
appeal to the grant people to keep our income survey from before because of COVID.
It's federal. I mean, who knows, right? Everything is changing. And then the other thing is with the infrastructure bill, maybe there'll be something else coming.
Might be more money.
I mean, if you got the option of changing it, just designate it for that and be done with it.
So then maybe what we should do is we could kind of, at the next town board meeting, we could say that that's the general direction we're going. But we probably need to go ahead and hold a public hearing and invite the residents from Cheshire to come in. I mean, ideally, it'd be nice if we go there, but truthfully with COVID, I think it'd be better to do it here and do a hybrid.
Where we can, yeah, where people can zoom in, even though they don't really have good internet there.
Or cell service.
Or cell coverage, right.
And you're right, maybe that infrastructure bill,
Yeah, maybe.
if it ever passes.
Right.
And I don't know if you, the county is looking at, we're looking at working on the internet too. Fix that, the broadband to fix that. So that's one thing we don't have to worry, shouldn't have to worry about, hopefully.
Well, it's not gonna cover everyone though, no matter what the county does. I mean, that's the sad part.
What the county administrator told me is they're gonna do an RFP for lighting up some of the dark fiber portions. So to see what the cost would involve with that. We'll see how that, like, I mean, but there are sections like the line that goes right by the town hall here is dark. So if there was a provider, I mean, there are certain pockets
Yeah.
that
You're saying we could have other options besides Spectrum,
maybe.
Green light.
Depending
I mean, they're in downtown Canandaigua, just not,
green light is? I didn't know. Yeah, it would.
they're just not anywhere that helps us so far.
Right.
All right, so that sounds good. Why don't we bring, we could talk about with the town board in full at the board, but we have three of us here, so we can kind of assume that for the purpose of planning and everything, we start on the path to Cheshire. We'll start the meeting, start the, really tighten up the estimate a little. And seems like the most logical place, huh?
Well, it was first on the list.
Right.
when
Yeah, we have the
Team put that
documentation
together,
as to
so.
why we picked it. I think we,
it's like, you had the stream flows behind the houses on the west side and one of the primary tributaries to the lake. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lake quality. I mean, that's a.
It's a good story.
Oh,
yeah, protecting the lake is important. I mean,
Yeah.
we're drinking
Yeah.
that water, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Doug, I have a question. You said you got a $3 million shortfall in your budget?
Oh, as
No, but.
The wish-
No, I'm just saying.
the
initially-
wish list to the
so what is-
budget.
What does $3 million translate into a tax rate?
Very, very substantial because we only.
Is it like 10 cents?
No. it would be
30
like
cents.
$2 extra.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Okay.
Is it?
yes, because we only leverage $1 million in property taxes for the general and highway fund. So it would like take the tax rate to $3 or something like that.
Really?
So, yes, we would leverage
What's our
such
total
a
budget?
small. So in total, it's about 15 million, but that includes all the special districts and everything. But the general highway fund generally is around 8 million plus or minus.
Mm.
With only $1 million of that coming from property tax. All the rest comes from other sources. That's where we get the $1.03 tax rate.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So if we had to put the rest, I add on taxes, instead of putting $1 million on taxes, we'd be putting
Yeah.
$4 million on
We're gonna
taxes.
have a $3.
Our tax rate's about $1, so yeah.
We'll let you sell that.
We wouldn't worry about seeing YouTube.
Yeah, we'll let you.
Okay.
We have to adapt that before November 2nd.
Yes, we do. We should anyway. Officially, we don't.
How many times can you table it?
I
All right.
can see the bomb going off while you guys have a town board meeting for that one.
Oh,
The goal is to keep the tax rate very flat.
right.
We hate
Well,
roller coaster rides. with tax
Yes,
Oh,
rates.
we've been very fortunate to be able to do
I
that.
have asked Jim before about the, quality of our roads and as Doug referred to earlier, he uses this Cornell road survey software to evaluate the roads, a number of different categories. I don't presume to understand the whole thing, but total cost really of what we should be doing is about $12 million.
For our roads?
Yeah,
And
we're
we've been running about $1.5 million a year, between $1 million and $1.5 million a year in improvements. And so I mean, at some point, we gotta figure out.
Yeah,
Well, is that, remember what, in prepping for the, I wasn't around, but prepping for the water project. And just increasing that slightly incrementally in preparation for that. Can that be done with the other and go into the highway contingency?
But it's part of that same $3, so that's
Right.
where you're gonna run into.
But if that $3, just 1
10
cent,
cents a year.
10, something like that.
Like
2 or 3 cents.
$20,000 a year.
So in 20 years, we
Right,
could
right.
line 2 roads,
2 miles of a road.
which would be more than if we had.
No, but I mean, you
That's
could
the challenge.
consider,
Yeah.
you could consider it the same way we did the water system. I mean, we bonded with, a bond that takes care of the bulk of the
can.
problems. or-
You can, but the bottom line is enough, then more of your budget is going to debt service
Right.
instead of
Yeah.
services. So it
Well,
isn't, but it,
what are you
yeah,
gonna do?
Mhm.
Where are you gonna get the money?
you just can't borrow
Maybe,
forever.
maybe, well, then get used to doing this, on the road.
I know.
I mean, that's.
The good news is that I was looking at, so we're going to much, I was looking at debt service. Pretty much all of the town's debt will be retired by the year 2033, 2034. And that includes the highway, the
Right.
water, I mean, even all of the special districts.
Because the
I
rates
mean,
were so
we're not-
low that we went for tiny
Right,
terms. We
right.
didn't go for
Now,
the 30
with that
years.
said, though, seriously, I just balanced Canandaigua Consolidated Water District last night. Remember, we were talking originally about 63, 65 cents a thousand, including the water project.
Right.
Mhm.
You guys went with a 15-year term. I
Right.
Knew it was gonna have an impact, all right? Plus, there were things that were not factored in for the project, the pressure reducing valves.
Right.
Walls and that other stuff. I'm looking at a 69-cent tax rate, if it below 70, but that stretches, and I still gotta talk to Jim because I had to reduce some things, like you wanted to replace 100 water meters next year, and I only put it for half of that. Or 1,000, I'm sorry, so I only put it for half of that, and you wanted to replace like fire hydrants, $80,000 in fire hydrants.
Well, so I'm gonna
Half
paint
of
the one in
that,
front of
so,
my house. You're not
you know, so-
replacing it.
Yeah, he wanted that
Yeah, that's
$500,000 back truck, that was the first thing I took out, so.
Don't need that.
Yeah, so, but that keeps it, I mean, it's tight, it is tight, and that does use some fund balance too. But that gets us to a 69-cent tax rate.
When I pulled up this morning, there was a Parks truck parked next to me with all kinds of rust on it. Is that really one of our Parks trucks?
It's getting rid of that.
Was it
We're
white?
waiting,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're,
that was-
we're waiting for the new one. It's
Okay.
the chip situation.
Okay, no, I just
Yeah.
wondered, because it was,
It's-
I mean,
I know.
the whole back thing was like rusted open. And I was like, oh my God, are we really?
It-
I'd
that
never
was-
seen anything like that in one of our vehicles, so I was a
we
little shocked.
actually- I was standing, I happened to run into Terry in the parking lot. And I saw one of our big trucks come in and I was like, oh my God, does that really say town Canandaigua inside? It looks terrible with the rust, but we're delayed right now. Keep in mind, like the trucks that we
Oh, yeah.
ordered last year still aren't here.
Aren't
yet.
here, yeah,
Good
yeah.
luck getting them.
Well,
Yeah.
It's the same, you can't get cars, how you get trucks,
Right.
same thing.
Yeah.
I know. All right,
So we have 2 or 3.
Yes.
So is there anything else for this meeting? I don't want to hold this on.
I got
everyone. I think we have a plan and we can bring it up at the town board meeting and, get the rubber stamp out, but seems like the best way to go. All right, meeting adjourned. We can stop recording.